Hi, and welcome back to Pale Moon Ranch. This is Jerry, and this is part 4 of designing and modeling an acoustic guitar in Fusion, formerly known as Fusion360. In this part, we are going to finish up the neck, and that's going to include designing the headstock veneer, this layer on top. We're going to then move on to getting the heel cap put on to the heel transition. After that, we're going to sketch and then cut in the slot where the truss rod here will go. Let's turn that truss rod off so we can see. So we're going to cut this so that we'll be able to bring in the truss rod and joint it into that slot. Once we have that, we're going to bring in most of our components. By that I mean the hanger bolts, the washers and the nuts, the truss rod and the nut, and we're going to get those all assembled into the neck. And then lastly, we're going to bring in the tuners and get those installed into the neck. And once we have that all done, the neck will be done and we'll move on to the body. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is design our headstock veneer up here, this thin layer that goes up here. So let's back our timeline up to that. Expand that. The first thing we're going to do is extrude it. So we're going to turn on our sketches and turn on our headstock sketch. And then we're going to extrude the outline of that up to where the nut goes. So that looks like this. And I have a parameter in here, headstock veneer height, set to, I believe, 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. And we'll go to our bodies and turn that on. It is on, okay. Okay, so now we'll turn off our headstock sketch. Then we're going to do a couple of fillets. So the first one rounds this edge here, and here, and here, and here. The second one is going to then round or fillet the top edge. We're going to fillet the bottom of this in just a little bit here. So once we have that, then we need to draw our holes and our inlays, if you want to do inlays. Now, everybody's headstock is going to be a little bit different, so it's hard for me to tell you exactly how to do yours. I can tell you just roughly what I did. Okay, so I came in here and I projected in, let's go back to that headstock sketch, turn that on, and I projected in my outline. Let's turn the body off for a minute. So I projected in this line here, not the line, but just I projected in the points. This point, this point, this point, this point, and this point. And I projected in part of our construction here. Essentially, what it comes down to is that I created another arc here at the same radius as this outside arc. And I dimensioned it in 1/2 inch. And then I dimensioned up 1/2 inch from this point here to start my first hole. And then I just evenly spaced my holes. and had them set in a 1/2 inch. My holes are just over 3/8, a little bit bigger than the tuners have a 3/8 inch diameter, so these are just a little bit bigger for tolerance, 0.01. And then once I had that, I just mirrored it over to the other side using that projected in line that I used right there. So I mirrored the opposite holes the same. Then I brought in my SVG of my horse head, and then I just created a text box here and put in my PMR initials for Pale Moon Ranch. So that's just kind of an overview, because your design isn't going to look like my design necessarily. Almost certainly not. So hopefully that gives you enough information. You basically just need to define where your tuners are going to go. Create a hole that's slightly bigger than the tuner's diameter. They're all going to be pretty much 3/8, so 0.385 is a good number to work with there. And then put in any inlays you want. Then once you have that, turn the bodies back on. So next thing I did was I cut in my horse head, and then I projected it back up with a new body for the inlay. I just created a purple paint, or I'm not sure what material I used. I used some material and then I just colored it purple. Next thing I do is cut in the PMR, turn off the sketches, and again I project it back up to fill it in. And that's all just visual. And then I'm going to cut my holes in the holes. I'm just going to select my 6 holes and set my hole type to just simple, hole tap type to simple, and drill point is flat, because I'm just going to use my 3/8 inch or my 1/4 inch flat end mill to cut those. And that's it for the headstock veneer. Next thing we're going to do is create our heel cap on the bottom here. Now I did it as a 3-part thing because I wanted to create a lamination of 2 different woods with a maple and then walnut and maple. And so all I did was select this surface and extrude it 1/16 of an inch, and I made that material maple, and then I extruded it each one of these is a new body. Extruded another 1/16 inch of walnut, new body, and another 1/16 inch of maple. Then I came back in and added in a couple more fillets here to match up this. So first one is to round over these corner edges to match the veneer. And then I did another one to round off the bottom. Now I know in part 2 we rounded this off, but that has gotten moved to here, so now we're going to just select this edge here and round that all the way around through the volute and around that bottom edge. Okay, so then next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut in a slot for our truss. I'm going to turn off the fretboard, and the truss rod is going to sit right in here, and so we need to put in a slot for it. The truss rod that I use is the low profile truss rod from Stumac. So I created this model of it It's not a working model. It doesn't actually have any function in here. It's simply here to model it in the guitar. It's a aesthetic thing just to show that it's there. It's on my GrabCAD account, so you can go pull this down. I'll put a link to my GrabCAD. I have several things I modeled that I use in this guitar, like the nut and the bridge and the saddle, the strings, the frets, this truss rod. I'm not sure what else I might have on there as a GrabCAD item. And these things are just to make the model complete for visual effect, really. So what we need to create a slot for this, and as you can see, this part of the body is a different dimension than this. So what we need to do is cut in a rectangular block that matches this. So we need that dimension, which is here to here, which is 1 3/8 basically. We're going to make it 1 3/8. This is slightly smaller so that there's tolerance to fit it into the hole. Its width is going to be 3/8 from here to here. Again, it's a little bit smaller. We're going to make the hole 3/8 because of tolerance so that it fits. It'll fit snug, but it won't be too loose. Then the other dimension we need is this dimension across here, which is 1/4 of an inch. And we need the length of this section of the body. So we're going to grab this and go to here, and that's 12.75. So we have all those numbers. So we'll go back over here, and we're going to create a sketch. On this plane. And use those dimensions. So we're going to create a rectangle on the end here that's coincident to this end and midpoint that is 3/8 wide and 1 3/8 inch deep. Then we're going to create a 1/4 inch wide by 12.75 slot that goes directly behind it. And it's going to be constrained to the midpoint again of the neck. And you see all the parallel and horizontal, vertical and horizontal constraints, and that's all there is. So once we have that sketch, then we're going to extrude that. First this one. Then we're going to extrude the other channel. Go ahead and turn off our sketch so you can see that. And then we want to fillet the bottom so it matches the curvature of the truss rod. So we're going to fillet this one and then fillet this one. And there we have it. So in a little while we'll come in then and we'll bring in that truss rod and we'll create a joint to set it into that slot. Another way to cut that truss rod slot would, if you actually have a model of the truss like I do here, would be to simply bring that truss rod in. Let's grab that. Bring it in as a component here. And then move it into place carefully. Make sure it's exactly aligned. So let's flip this over 180 degrees right there. And then if we zoom in here, come on. Let's say okay and zoom in. So, and then let's do a move on this component. And we want to move it down. Just a little bit more, I think. 3.5. 3.5 maybe, 3.3. Let's see how that looks. It's a little bit too much, so let's go back to move, and we need to come back up just a hair, maybe 0.1 minus point, actually 0.01. There, maybe that did it. Okay, we're there. It looks flush with the top. And then we're going to move it back until it's flush with the end. Let's get this thing turned around so we can see. And it needs to go back still. Let's say 6. What is it? 1, 2. There, and that looks pretty good, huh? And we can tell if we can actually see it, that it's there. Maybe it's just a little bit too far. So we're going to go back to move again and bring it out just a tiny bit. The reason it's like this is because, remember, we got an angled neck here. So we're going to bring it out just a little bit more to take care of that, because we need to cut through the whole thing. So let's get up here and grab this, and we want to come out. We're going to say 0.01, and that'll do it. All right, so then what we're going to do is we have to extrude this out. So I'm going to turn off the neck bodies for a minute. Just like that. Extrude it. And we're going to say new body, not. And turn on our bodies over here. And we're going to say new body. Say OK. Okay, now let's see if this works. Now we're going to do a combine. And we're going to select our target body. And our tool is going to be this, this, this. That's enough right there. And we're going to do a cut operation. Now if we turn off our truss and we turn off that body we created there, and that one, and there we have our cut-in slot for the truss. So that's just another way of doing it. Okay, we got that. Next thing we're going to do is bring in our components. Starting with, we're going to bring in a hanger bolt and a washer, a lock washer, and we'll go ahead and create a rigid joint to put that onto the bolt. I'm not going to do a tutorial on joints here. All of this, you know, anybody that's done joints knows they're a pain in the butt, but basically I'm going to take the center of that washer and I'm going to do a joint to the center of the bolt, and then I'm going to offset it within the joint to bring it up on the neck there. So you can see the offset is 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in a flat washer, and I'm going to joint that onto there. And then I'm going to bring in a nut, and I'm going to put that on there with the joint. Okay, and then I'm going to do that all over again for the second one. We'll just jump ahead here. And we have that. I should have explained earlier, the hanger bolt and the washers and nut came from McMaster Car. To get those, we go to Insert McMaster Car Component. We're going to get this up. We're going to search for what we're looking for. Let's look for a hanger bolt. Hanger bolts right here. We're going to choose, we want inch. We want steel wood screw threaded studs. So we're going to select that. We're going to choose 1/4-20s. And we want them 2.5 inch, and that narrows it down to what I want. And I want the zinc plated steel right here, 2.5 inch. So I'm going to select that, and then that pops up this down here to where I can download the CAD for it. So you can choose what you want here, and what we want is a 3D step file. So we'll select that and click download. Now bring it back into our model. Brings it in here, and then we can orient it and place it where we want to, and say OK and accept it. And it adds it down here as a component. Okay, just wanted to show that. And we'll join those to the neck here in a little bit. First, we're going to go ahead and bring in our truss rod and our nut. So we've got our nut, and again, that nut is on my GrabCAD. You can go pull mine down for the purposes of modeling, and you can pull down my truss rod if you like. Of course, if you plan on using a different truss rod, you can design your own. I don't know of any other models out there you can pull down of a truss rod. Even a nut, I'm not sure you can find the nut. Of course, these are dimensioned to the dimensions I chose. I believe this is 1 3/4 inch up here, and that nut is dimensioned for that. Sorry, it's 1.5 inches. Okay, so once we have those, I'm going to take a quick departure here. I've got all of these nuts and bolts here that I just pulled in. I want to organize them into, so I'm going to create a component here and call it bolts, and then I'm going to cut and paste all of those nuts and bolts and put them into this component. So that's what this is down here, is moving all those. So I just want to be able to pull them in there just to organize them. Then I can kind of close this up and less distraction, I guess, is what it comes down to. Let's close down some of these groups to give us some room on the timeline. These two positions are just to get things moved so that I can get some joints on them. So I move that up there. Then I'm going to put a joint. Let's turn on our joints, actually. Just a rigid joint, the face of this against the face of this. Undo this so you can see I chose the end of this, the center of it, and then for my other side I chose just the center here. Okay, and that dropped that in there and locked it into place. Then I want to get my nut placed, so I'm going to go ahead and create a joint for that. Click OK on that, and I'm going to create this joint here to place the nut. If we want to look at that, we can. Let's delete this one. So I chose the back edge, but on that plane. And then I chose this same thing here on this line, but down in the bottom, right there, and put that nut right there. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and put these. Now I put revolutes on these just because I was learning how to use joints and messing around. There's really no point in putting a revolute joint on these. Just a rigid would be fine. And again, it's just choosing the... I chose the very tip of this bolt for my first, and then I chose the bottom of this hole, making sure we get down inside, not the outside, but down inside, to put that in there like that. And then when I click OK, these are already jointed to it, so they came with it. And like I said, I have a Revolute. I was just messing around. I really don't recommend you do that. There's really no benefit to it. But you know, it makes it so that it does silly things like that. But there's no point. Okay, so let's stop that. And then the last thing we're going to do is bring in our tuners. I did not create these tuners. It's one of the few things that I didn't model myself. I just went out to GrabCAD and I brought in my tuners. And I couldn't even tell you at this point which tuners I went and grabbed. So you grab whatever, and the jointing on them might work differently than it does with these. So I'll show you what I did, and then basically you'd have to figure out your jointing with yours. But so I bring in a tuner, and this is for this little cap needs to go on top, and for some reason when I do the joint, it leaves this. It takes the nut right here, but it leaves this, so I have to do two joints. So first I joint the main body. And what that looks like is something like this. Kill that one so I can show you. I've selected, and I'm gonna back up and just do the joint over so you can see, because you got to grab that. You want this surface to match this surface. So I'm gonna grab this. Let's do assemble joint. And I'm going to grab that point right down there at the base of that column. Okay. And then I'm going to place it. I want to place it on this center of that circle, but on the surface, not down inside, but on the surface. Now, for whatever reason, it's leaving it up a little bit, so I've got to drag it up until it touches. It's a 1/10 of an inch. And then what I want to do is I don't want this hanging over, so I'm going to use the rotate, and I'm going to rotate that around to where I want it to be. Okay. And when I click OK, it'll bring the rest of this with it, but it leaves this behind, like I said. So I've got to do another joint. And I just choose, I want this to go in this hole. So I'm going to choose this surface right here, assemble joint. I want the outside edge, not the inside, right there, just like that. And then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to turn off the tuner so I can see, and I'm going to choose the top of this hole. Turn it here so I can get it right there. Did that work? Oh yeah, because I have it turned off. So, and you see that cap's now where I want it to be, right there. Okay. And then we're just going to do that again 6 times. We're going to, let me get rid of these. Let me undo those joints. Then we're going to pop up here, and there's our joints. Something broke. Don't know what I did. Okay. Okay, so, and then we're going to do that 5 more times. We're just going to bring in 5 more. Just jump all the way to the end. Okay. And then that's it. Last thing I have in here is to create some stock. When you actually get ready, I'll cover that when I go through the actual machining this, all the cam work that I'm going to do later. I can show you briefly that I'm just modeling what stock might look like. Let's close that, turn this, and we'll turn on the stock. Just messing around. I don't know what my actual stock will look like when I get ready to cut this, but this is what I modeled for, so when I go to cam, this is what it might look like. Or it might be a solid block, I don't really know. So that's kind of it for the neck. The neck is complete. We'll turn back on our fretboard, and we're ready to start modeling the body. And then later we'll joint this to the body. Okay, so see you on the next section. So that's it for this part. We got a complete neck. We're going to move on to the body. Next up is designing the radius top and radius bottom. So stay tuned.